Hello music lovers, welcome to episode 73 of What Makes This Song Special. As always, I've got a song for you, an amazing song today, Tracy Chapman, Fast Car. I'm going to tell you what it reminds me of, where I was the first time I heard today's song, why it's a special song to me, what it reminds me of when I hear it. You can leave a comment in the comment section if it's a special song to you. Tell me why. What does it take you back to? I'll follow up, as always, at the end with a little clickbait somewhere on the screen where you can click and listen to my cover version of today's song. I'll dive straight into the story. 1998-ish, a long time ago now. I'd been singing in front of people probably for a good year and a half or so at this point. I was in maybe 5th year at high school in a band with a couple of friends and was trying my best to be cool. You know, at that age, more than any other age, it's important to be cool. And the problem was that my amazing music teachers at school kept forcing me into situations that didn't feel very cool. Things that I'm quite thankful for now in retrospect. But at 16, you don't want to be singing in a choir when you're supposed to be rehearsing with your rock band after school. You know, it didn't seem cool enough. But I couldn't say no, and so I was forced to sort of turn up on Mondays, every Monday afternoon for a while, to the East Renfrewshire School Choir, or East Renfrewshire Choir, I can't remember how it was worded. And I remember like the first day turning up, and the only pleasant surprise was that it was me, 4 other guys, and about 50 girls. And I thought, well, this could work. This could be all right. But we rehearsed every Monday, as I said, after school for a few months. And then one afternoon, we were told that we'd been chosen to record our choir pieces for a CD that was being released for the BBC at the BBC studios. And I think in my head I was like, wow, BBC studios, you know, we'll go there, someone at the BBC will hear me sing, think I'm amazing, get me a recording contract. You know, that's how these things work, isn't it? So in the run-up, me and my mate Scott Hanby, who was one of the only guys in the choir but was also in my band, as luck would have it, so we started to record little versions of songs that we'd been writing onto cassette tapes. We'd written maybe 2 or 3 songs together at this point, and I'd written a few songs as well, so we kind of put them all together on a wee cassette tape with very rudimentary and primitive recording skills, and we were thinking that maybe we could get them to someday at BBC Studios. You know, the day when the day arrived for the choir recording, we were so naive. You know, like I suppose at that age you don't realise those stories that you hear about someone hearing a demo tape of a band and then instantly signing them for that band to become the most famous artists in music history aren't really that realistic. You know, they're like 1 in 100 million at best. So I don't know, we just had these naive notions that somebody would hear us at BBC Studios and think, wow, these guys are great, they're so cool and young and handsome and talented, we'll just take them on and that'll be it, be great. Living in dream world. Anyway, on the day of the recording, Scott's mum and dad very kindly said that they would give us a lift to BBC Studios, which is in the kind of West End of Glasgow. And Scott's family were like devout Christians. They were such lovely, lovely people. But they were very much at the church, sort of 7 days a week. They would go all the time, help out at the church and all these things. And I genuinely don't think they ever judged me for not being religious at all. But I always had this feeling that when I was with them, I had to sort of watch what I said in case I offended them or said anything that, you know, outed me as a non-religious bad guy. You know, it sounds silly, and I know that, as I said, I think it was more about me being awkward than them ever really thinking badly of me at all. But I had this awkwardness when I was around them because of that, and of course that probably made it worse when things happened, like, you know, on the car journey to the BBC Studios, I saw something that you don't often see in Glasgow. Something happened that, yeah, it's a rarity in a Glasgow street. Somebody drove past us in the opposite direction in a Ferrari. And I just instantly went, oh my God, a Ferrari. And then there was this like silence in the car, and I was like, I don't think they appreciated me shouting, oh my God, when I saw the Ferrari. And there was just this like silence. and awkwardness, and nobody said anything for ages, and I just sort of sat back into my seat and I listened to the radio for the remaining duration of the journey. And anyway, as I was listening to the radio, on comes this song where some guy starts singing about a fast car over and over again. Fast car this, fast car that. And I remember thinking about, the Ferrari, and just kind of laughing to myself about the lyric in the song, and just desperately wanting the journey to end so that I could get out of the car. Anyway, the day of the recording at BBC Studios was a really cool experience. At 16 years old, it was my first time being in a huge recording studio. And I was like a little kid at Christmas. There were microphones and mixing consoles and instruments and cables running everywhere. And I remember wondering what famous singers might have stood in that same room on that same part of that stage before me over the years, And we did manage to give one of the producers our tape, who seemed really nice and super keen to listen to our stuff. But, realistically, he was probably just being kind to get us to leave him alone. Fast forward a few weeks, me and a few pals from school were round at a girl's house from our year at school, and I hear the song again. I heard it and I was like, oh, that's that song from the car. It must be like a big hit at the moment or whatever. And I sort of asked around the room if anybody knew what it was, and I realised, of course, that the guy singing Fast Car wasn't a guy, it was a girl. It was, of course, Tracy Chapman, who had quite a deep and unusual voice for a young girl, but really cool and soulful and distinctive nonetheless. And one of my mates in the group actually had a debut album on CD, and I managed to get a copy of it the following week onto a cassette, as you did back then. When somebody had an album that you wanted to have a listen to, you could burn it onto a cassette, and I just fell in love with the album. It was just such a powerful album. The songs were political, emotive, just so powerful, and the lyrics spoke of struggle for black people, for women, for poor folk, songs about domestic violence, welfare lines. It was, I think, a time where I was starting to see the world through a young adult's eyes. At 16, you're starting to make the realisation that there are so many issues on the planet that you maybe were previously unaware of. And that album just spoke to me in that moment. It was just such a masterpiece of an album. So yeah, I'll talk a wee bit about it's just a short story today. That's kind of just what it takes me back to, where I was the first time I heard it and how it affected me. The story behind the song, and I suppose the album as well, getting to the fame that it reached is a really interesting one. That I will go into for you. Tracy Chapman was a singer-songwriter from Cleveland, Ohio, who had just signed her first recording contract and released her self-titled debut album in 1988. She was a complete unknown, and just a couple of months after the album was released, she got the incredible opportunity to perform at Wembley Stadium to around 80,000 people for Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday concert. A dream gig for any upcoming artist, but it was about to get even better for her. She played 2 songs during the day while the crowd awaited the bigger artists who were to feature in the evening. Artists and bands like Sting, George Michael, Peter Gabriel, Dire Straits, Bryan Adams, the Bee Gees, Phil Collins, Simple Minds. You get the idea. This huge concert. And one of the biggest artists that was due to play as a surprise later on was Stevie Wonder. But unfortunately, just as he was about to walk out onto stage, it was discovered that the hard disk of his synclavier keyboard that contained all of the synthesized parts for the show was missing, and he said he couldn't play without it. He turned round, walked out of the stadium with his band members and entourage following in tears, and that was the end of that. And there was this huge panic from all of the organisers backstage, and they quickly turned round and looked at young Tracy Chapman, who'd already performed a couple of hours earlier, and asked if she could go back out with her acoustic guitar and just sing a couple of songs to keep the crowd happy, whilst they rushed the next act into position backstage and tried to make it look like there was no fault backstage, nothing had happened. And those 2 appearances at that concert shot her into superstardom. Before the concert, apparently she'd sold about 250,000 albums since its release. And in the following 2 weeks alone, she was said to have sold over 2 million copies of that album. So just that experience for her, and that wee moment of magic, of sort of a bit of bad luck for Stevie Wonder and the Stevie Wonder fans, but seriously good luck, good fortune for Tracy Chapman. When you watch her at that concert, you can see it on YouTube. It's incredible, the performance she gives. She looks so nervous. She actually looks like she's shaking. And, you know, a 24-year-old girl, just her and the guitar, she silences the entire stadium. It just gives you shivers. Just an amazing performance, amazing moment in music history. And the lyrics in the song Fast Car, we'll talk a wee bit about the lyrics because they're just so well written. You know, a song about a girl who lives in a poor town, looking after her alcoholic father, who's been left by this point by her mother who'd had enough. She meets a guy with a fast car, and she uses the fast car metaphor throughout the song as, you know, a metaphor of escape. She has all these dreams of going into the big city and making a new life for herself and this guy, and not relying on welfare. And in the end, the guy she falls in love with, the guy with the fast car, ends up essentially turning into her father. And she's left looking after him and their kids while he spends most of his time drinking, unemployed. And it's just, you know, it's such a sad song. It's such a horrible reality check of a song, you know, like it's so powerful, I think, because it sadly speaks directly to so many people in similar situations. And I think that's why to this day it's such a popular song. So there you have it, a wee short episode this week, but that is why the song is special to me. It reminds me of that day recording at BBC Studios for the first time, starting my first bands at high school, hanging out with pals, becoming a young adult towards the end of our school days. All of that stuff, it just reminds me of all of that. When I hear Fast Car by Tracy Chapman, I go back to that time in my life, and that's why it's a special song to me. Why is it a special song to you? Leave a wee comment underneath. I'll be doing a cover version of Fast Car any minute, and you'll be able to click on it either here or here. I can never remember which side. In the meantime, check out some of the other episodes. There have been so many episodes with so many great songs that I've spoken about and done cover versions of over the last year and a half. If you're looking for vocal coaching, I can jump online with you. We can go on Zoom, Skype. We can talk about your voice and how to help you with your singing. Like, share, subscribe, all of the good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.